are heavy-duty antenna mounting systems. What does it come with? How does it work? And how do you install it? We're going to look at that right now. So first thing, of course, is the body of the mount. This is our heavy-duty antenna mount. It fully articulates so that you can rotate the aiming of your antenna both left to right, as well as up and down if necessary. The mount mounts to the back of an antenna or enclosure. I have an example here. Right here in this location, there's 4 bolt holes. And if you look really close, you can see that one of them is marked with a ground symbol. This you'll need to know about so that when you mount your antenna, mount to the antenna or enclosure back, you need to remember which one of those was the ground hole. The reason that is because we actually have a grounding cable so that you can properly bond your antenna to ground wherever your location and installation is. You want to make sure you do that. And this is a little jumper cable that will go across the mount from one side to the other side. The other side is going to have hardware on it for whatever you're mounting to, whether it be a post or flat against a wall. You need some place to be able to set up a bond point for wiring going down to your ground bond. So of course our hardware is included to mount the mount to the enclosure of your antenna or enclosure, and it's basically just straight through. Now, whenever you are using your grounding connector, one side is slightly larger than the other side. That side that is smaller than the two is the side that you're going to use on this side of the mount, where your grounding indication bolt hole is on the back of your enclosure. And I'll assemble that now. Okay, so I've loosely assembled this enclosure. You can see that these are mounted with these hex cap bolts. These are 5mm hex cap bolts. So you'll need a 5mm Allen key or hex key and tighten those down accordingly. Some of our systems, like our quad link, will come with a hex key. If not, you'll just need a 5mm hex key or Allen key. Make note of which one of these bolt locations is your grounding point for the grounding of the inside components. You'll attach your jumper from that to that particular bolt. That way you're sure that you're on the ground point. When we go to install this on a wall or post, this will go on to the other hardware. So what is the other hardware? U-bolts also included. These U-bolts are galvanized, made for outdoors. They have a hex nut on there with a serrated back on it for locking in place. These will go for post, pole, whatever type of installation you have that you're putting it on some kind of a pole. That's what these are used for. Now, on your antenna back, these will simply slide through the appropriate holes so that you can mount this onto a post. Sometimes it's easier to pre-install these slightly with the nuts pre-started. So with these pre-started, you can have these ready to go, and then you can put this onto your post mount and then tighten them down with a 9/16 inch wrench. These will tighten down nice and tight. You can use up to, I believe, a 2 3/8 inch post. So a typical fence post will work, as well as any J-pole that you can find. And we'll show you that installation on a pole right now. Also, don't forget that this needs to be attached to one of your U-bolts. The larger of the two sides goes to your U-bolt. Okay, so you see here that I've mounted it to a pole using the supplied U-bolts and then tightened down the nuts so that we're secure to our pole at the location that we want. And we have our ground cable going from our ground point on our antenna to one of the bolts of the U-bolts so that it's behind the nut. And now we have an electrical connection between the ground point and our U-bolt. If you have a post mast that's metal, this will now be attached to the ground point as well. But you need to make sure that you, according to your local codes, properly ground either the post that you're attached to or directly to the wiring and mounting hardware of the antenna so you can properly ground the system. Once you've mounted your system, you can articulate this mount so that you can aim it properly. So if this is an antenna versus just an enclosure, if it's just an enclosure, you just put it however you'd like. If it's an antenna and you need to move it around to aim towards your cell tower properly, watching your signal, live signal, like you would see on your InvisiGig, then you would loosen up these points under here to be able to aim it left and right in an articulating fashion. You can also, of course, rotate your mount, but if you can't or don't want to for any reason, or if this is mounted flush on a wall versus on a pole, which you can just use with lag bolts or screws through each of the 4 holes, you would then loosen this up, aim it the direction that you need for the best, most optimal signal, and then tighten this down so that it can no longer turn. Vertically works the same way. There's another cap bolt for adjustment here, also 5mm Allen key. You would loosen it up, aim it however you need, up or down. Once you've got it exactly where you need it, tighten it back down, and you're good. The whole thing should be secured. Once you've got it perfectly done, you can check the level on the back. On a lot of our antennas, we have a level built into the back of the antenna to make sure everything's nice and level, and then tighten it all down, check it again, check your signal, make sure everything is really good, and you're done.